Some betrayals leave a bruise, but some betrayals leave a scar that changes who you become forever. This is the story of a woman who gave everything to a man she trusted with her whole heart, and the day he looked her in the eye and chose someone else. But what she did after that, what she built from the wreckage of her broken heart, is something nobody saw coming. Not her family, not her friends, and certainly not him. Stay with me till the end, because the final twist in this story is the kind of justice that doesn't come with shouting or revenge for revenge's sake. It comes quiet, it comes patient, and when it finally arrives, it changes everything. Her name was Sarah, and this is her story. Sarah was 28 years old, working as a marketing manager at a mid-sized company in the city. She was smart, kind, and always put others before herself. That's exactly why, when she met Daniel at a friend's wedding 3 years ago, she fell hard and fast. Daniel was charming. He knew exactly what to say to make Sarah feel like the only person in the room. Within a year, they moved in together. Within 2 years, he proposed with a ring that Sarah still remembers sparkling under the restaurant lights. Life seemed perfect. Sarah supported Daniel through a rough patch at his job, even helping him financially when he was between paychecks. She introduced him to her family as the man she was going to marry. Her parents adored him. Her friends said she had found her person. But behind the smiles and the shared apartment, something was quietly falling apart. Daniel had started spending more time at work, or so he said. Late nights, sudden business trips, phone calls he'd take in another room, voice lowered to a whisper. Sarah noticed. Of course she noticed. But when you love someone, you tell yourself the story you want to believe, not the one that's actually happening in front of you. She had no idea that the woman on the other end of those phone calls was someone she saw almost every week, someone she called a friend. It started with small things. Daniel canceling plans at the last minute, him being distracted during dinner, eyes glued to his phone, quickly turning the screen away whenever Sarah walked by. Then came the night Sarah found a message notification on his laptop screen. Just a preview, just a few words. But those few words were enough to make her stomach drop. She didn't confront him right away. Instead, she did what many of us do when our world starts shaking. She looked for proof. Quietly, carefully, piece by piece. What she found broke her heart into pieces she didn't know could break. The woman texting Daniel wasn't a stranger. It was Emily, Sarah's close friend from college, someone who had sat across from her at brunch just 2 weeks earlier, laughing about wedding dress shopping. Someone who had hugged Sarah and told her how lucky she was to have found Daniel. The messages weren't just friendly conversations. They were plans, meetings, late-night calls disguised as work stress. And the most painful part? The relationship between Daniel and Emily hadn't just started. It had been going on for almost 8 months. 8 months of Sarah trusting a man who was building a second life behind her back. 8 months of smiling at a friend who was helping him do it. Sarah sat alone in her apartment that night, phone in her lap, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't cry. She just felt cold, still, focused. Something inside her had shifted, and it wasn't going back. 2 weeks later, Sarah confronted Daniel. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She simply placed her phone on the table, showed him what she had found, and asked one question: how long? Daniel's face went pale. He tried to explain, tried to make excuses about how it just happened, how he never meant to hurt her. But the truth came out eventually, brutal and clear. He had been seeing Emily for months. He said he was confused about what he wanted. He said Sarah had become too focused on her career, and he felt lonely. But the final blow came when he said the words Sarah never expected to hear from the man who once promised to marry her. I choose her. Just like that. 3 years of love, support, and sacrifice, reduced to a sentence spoken without even the courage to look her in the eyes. Sarah didn't beg. She didn't ask him to reconsider. She simply nodded, packed a bag that same night, and left the apartment they had built together. But leaving wasn't the end of her pain. Word spread fast. Some of their mutual friends sided with Daniel and Emily, saying Sarah should move on and not make things awkward. Her own support system began to crack under the weight of everyone else's comfort with the betrayal. She lost her partner. She lost a friend. And for a while, She felt like she was losing herself too. But grief has a strange way of turning into fuel if you let it. For a month, Sarah barely left her new apartment. She replayed every memory, searching for the moment she should have seen it coming. She blamed herself for trusting too easily, for missing the signs, for believing in a fairy tale that was never real. Then one evening, her older sister, Claire, sat her down and said something that would change everything. "You keep asking what you did wrong. But Sarah, you did nothing wrong. He did. And right now, you have two choices. You can stay broken because of what he did, or you can build something so strong that his betrayal becomes the smallest chapter of your story." Those words hit differently. Sarah realized she had spent weeks mourning a relationship that was built on lies, but she hadn't spent a single moment thinking about her own future, her own strength, her own worth. That night, something shifted. Sarah didn't want petty revenge. She didn't want to key his car or send angry messages to Emily. She wanted something far more powerful. She wanted to become undeniable. She wanted Daniel to watch her rise so high that his choice would haunt him every single day. She started small. She threw herself back into her work, pitching new ideas she had been too afraid to suggest before. She reconnected with old mentors. She began saving aggressively, planning a future that depended on no one but herself. Sarah wasn't planning revenge in the traditional sense. She was planning proof that leaving her was the biggest mistake Daniel would ever make. Over the next year, Sarah's transformation became impossible to ignore. She earned a promotion at work after leading a campaign that brought in the company's biggest client of the year. She started a side project, a small business consulting service, using the skills she had quietly built over years of supporting Daniel's own career instead of her own. Her side business grew faster than she imagined. Word of mouth brought in clients. Within 8 months, she had left her corporate job entirely to run it full-time. Meanwhile, whispers began reaching her about Daniel and Emily's relationship. Apparently, the same patterns that started their romance had continued. Daniel, it turned out, wasn't just unfaithful to Sarah. He had a habit of chasing comfort wherever it was easiest to find. Emily began noticing late night messages on his phone, too. Sarah didn't need to lift a finger. Karma was already writing its own chapter. But the real turning point, the moment everyone in Sarah's circle still talks about, happened almost exactly 1 year after the breakup at a mutual friend's engagement party. Sarah almost didn't go, but Claire convinced her, "Walk in like the woman you've become, not the woman he left." So she did. The party was at a rooftop venue downtown, string lights glowing above tables filled with familiar faces. Sarah walked in wearing a confidence that came not from a new dress or a new hairstyle, but from a year of rebuilding herself from the inside out. The room noticed immediately. Old colleagues congratulated her on her thriving business. Mutual friends asked for advice on their own career changes. She was no longer Daniel's ex in anyone's eyes. She was Sarah, the woman who built something remarkable out of heartbreak. And then, across the room, she saw him. Daniel stood near the bar, and next to him was Emily. But something was different. The easy charm Sarah once fell for now looked tired on him. Emily's expression was tense, distracted, checking her phone every few minutes in a way that felt painfully familiar. Daniel approached Sarah cautiously, clearly unsure of what to expect. "You look really good, Sarah. I heard about your business." "That's amazing." Sarah smiled, calm, genuine, without a trace of bitterness. "Thank you. I'm really happy with where my life is right now." It wasn't sarcasm. It wasn't a performance. It was simply true. And that truth hit Daniel harder than any angry word ever could have. Before he could say more, Emily called him over, her voice sharp with irritation about something trivial. Daniel excused himself, and as he walked away, Sarah caught the exact expression she never expected to feel satisfaction from: regret. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, sinking regret in his eyes. In the months that followed, Sarah's business continued to grow. She expanded her team, took on international clients, and was even invited to speak at a local business conference about resilience and reinvention. She heard through mutual friends. Months later, that Daniel and Emily's relationship had ended, falling apart under the same weight of distrust and dishonesty that had built it in the first place. Some say what goes around eventually finds its way back. But here's the most important part of Sarah's story. She never wasted another moment plotting against them. She didn't need to. Her success, her peace, and her happiness became the only response necessary. Sarah eventually met someone new, a kind, steady man named Marcus who admired her strength rather than feeling threatened by it. Their relationship grew slowly, built on honesty instead of hidden phone calls and whispered excuses. Looking back, Sarah says the betrayal was the most painful chapter of her life, but also the one that forced her to discover a version of herself she never knew existed. Stronger, wiser, unshakable. Betrayal has a strange way of testing us. It can either break us completely, or it can reveal a strength we never knew we had. Sarah's story teaches us something powerful. The best revenge was never about revenge at all. It was about refusing to let someone else's broken choices define her worth. It was about turning pain into purpose and heartbreak into growth. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, remember this. Their choice to leave says everything about them and nothing about your value. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply become so strong, so complete, and so at peace with yourself that their absence becomes irrelevant. Because in the end, the people who walk away from you are simply making room for the life that's actually meant for you. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, your comeback is always greater than their betrayal.